being able to manifest your heart's desire to align yourself and your intentions with this divine organizing intelligence that is limitless, that is inexhaustible, that is ever expanding, that is abundant, that is all providing and all knowing and everywhere at the same time, is like walking down another street. To align yourself with that and to know that that alignment in itself is enough to bring whatever it is that has particularized, that is individualized into the world that you would like to have show up in your life and align with the particularization of that divine intelligence that is you. That it's just bringing it all together. It's just a realignment. And it will cooperate with you. The thing that will keep it from working for you is any obstacle to that flow. As I talked about when I was speaking about unconditional love. The minute that you put hatred, anger, bitterness, tension, anxiety, stress in the way of that intelligence, between you and that intelligence, you block that flow. It is a flowing. That's why we use water as a symbol of it, because it flows at all times. It's like 70% of who you are is water. 70% of this planet is water. 85% of your brain is water. It is the kahunas always use the reference of the symbol of water. Water and the universal God force are the same. That's why you need lots of it in your system at all times as an antidote to any of the things that interfere with your perfection, with your clarity, with your being at one. And so, as you process and try to get a hold of this concept of water, try to imagine you're sitting by a stream and you reach into the stream and you want to get a hold of some of the water. And you reach in and you grab it real hard. And you as tight as you can get it, and you try to hang on to it. Then you open up your hand to see what you got, and you got nothing. Because you can't get a hold of it, you can't grab it, you can't be firm with it. In order to enjoy the water, and to experience the water, to know the water, you put your hand in it, and you relax. And then you get to experience and know the water. The minute that you tighten and grab and insist and try to take it, it flows past you. Well, that's the same thing that happens when you are attempting to rush the universe. It's called don't push the river. You don't push it, you flow with it. You row your boat gently down the stream. Down the stream, not up the stream. You don't fight it. Merrily, merrily, always merrily. And when you grasp that, it's like walking down another street. Now, one of the keys to being able to walk down this street is that you don't have to convince anybody else who is still stuck back there in the tribal awareness, in the tribal consciousness, that indeed this is what will happen and this is what I'm doing. Because the minute you do that, you again put a blockage. You're always trying to keep yourself from erecting obstacles and barriers to what it is that you would like to see manifested in your life. And most of us don't realize that the obstacles that we place in front of us are the things that they're not like bricks and they're not boards. They're not physical apparatuses. What they are thoughts, ideas, attitudes, consciousness. And the attitude, the consciousness, the awareness of, I want this to happen, I want it to happen now. And if it doesn't happen, then I am going to blame somebody else for it. Or anger or hatred or bitterness or any of those kinds of things. Any of those attitudes immediately block the flow of the God force into your life. The characteristics or qualities of self-actualizing people is that they detach themselves from outcome. They are no longer concerned, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, they are no longer concerned with the fruits of their labors. You know you're on purpose. You trust in your connection to this divineness. You know you are not separate from it any longer. And so this ego part of you that is so insistent upon doing things now and doing things right and making yourself better and proving how great you, all of that, while you don't lose it entirely, you tame it sufficiently to allow this sacred part of you. And when people ask me over and over again, well, how do you do this? You know, how do you make it happen? I remember reading in Vivekananda, who was another great saint who came over here to the West in the early part of this century, like 1905 or so. And someone asked him that question. He said, in the springtime, go out and look at the blossoms on the fruit trees. This is how you do it, just like they do. He said, the blossom vanishes of itself as the fruit grows. So too will the lower self vanish as the divine grows within you. It's not really a matter of beating anything down or conquering anything. It's allowing the divine to grow within you. And it's like thinking of yourself as a container that will only hold so much as a physical being. And if it's filled with fear and anxiety and stress and tension and all of this kind of stuff, then there's no room left in it for love and peace and detachment. If you just understand that the blossom vanishes of itself as the fruit grows, and that the lower part of you, the part of you that's ego-based, will vanish as the divine grows within you. As you practice these principles, you fill up this container with this, and it pushes that other stuff out. There's no more room for it. It just overflows and goes out. And as that happens, as you see in that metaphor, then the container that is you becomes filled with patience. And that patience is based on knowing. That knowing is based on trust.
The first pathway is called discipline. All right. So this is like you have to train the body. Right? So you have to go to practice.
Yes.
Right? The second. Now we're not talking about education here. We're talking about mastery. The second pathway is called wisdom, and that is the application of the mind to what you've trained yourself to do. So if you're going out to learn how to shoot a basket, or to hit a tennis ball, or to make a lemon meringue pie, or dance the Macarena, or anything, the first thing you do is you train your body, you get it in shape, and the second thing you do is you apply wisdom, the mind, to it. Right? Now this is what we mean by education. So that if we send our children off to school, we say to them, get some discipline and use your head. And basically you've got an education.
Yes.
But that's not mastery. The top two levels of mastery include, the third one's called unconditional love. I watched Pavarotti sing at one of the three tenors, Sylvia
sure.
concert.
Yes.
42,000 of us at a football stadium in
Wow.
Florida.
Yeah.
And they had a screen on him, Michael, that was 30 feet high. That's 3 stories high, and they showed a close-up of him. Now, this is a man, how many times has he sang O Sole Mio in Italian, all right? There's nobody in the stadium understands Italian, but it doesn't matter. They show a close-up on his face on this 30-foot screen, and he is in bliss. He's just in bliss. And I said to my wife, who was sitting next to me, I said, honey, this guy has obviously gone to practice. I mean, you've got to practice to be the best in the world. And he's also, obviously, he's got great wisdom. He has studied. But that's not what makes him the greatest tenor in the world. I said, look at the love. Oh, solo me. I mean, he was just, every fiber of him was involved in this. He was he was in love with what he was doing. And he wasn't selling us the song, he was selling us the love.
Yes.
That's the third pathway. But the highest pathway, what we really call mastery, is what we call surrender, which is when you get to that place where you realize that this is not you who's doing any of this, that you're not this body, this is not your home, this is not you that's doing it. There's something that you're connecting to called spirit, or consciousness, or higher awareness, and you're allowing God, I guess, if you will, to flow through you and send that out into the world. That's what the highest of them are. I mean, Michael Jordan says, I don't know how I do that. I just surrender.
Yes.
That whole idea of being able to get your ego out of the way. I was just asked the question in South Africa, but they were interviewing me, one of the newspapers there, and the woman hit me with this question. She said, what's been the greatest accomplishment of your life? And my ego started really going into, high gear. And I was thinking about, how many books I'd written, how many times I'd appeared on the Tonight Show, or where I was on bestseller lists and all of this. I would I wasn't saying a word. I was just sort of rattling all of these things off that my ego wanted to say. And then finally it hit me, and I said to the woman, I think the greatest accomplishment of my life has been my ability to tame my ego, and to no longer see myself as what I have and what I do and what other people think of me. I'm not my possessions. I'm not my accomplishments. I'm not my reputation. I've been able to see myself as a spiritual being, if you will, having that human experience. And that is involved with letting go. As they say in that recovery movement, you let go and you let God. And that may sound trite, but it's really one of the great secrets to being able to attract and manifest into your life. One of the people that I selected in Wisdom of the Ages or selected me, was this man who we don't even know when he was born or when he lived. His name was Patanjali. I'm sure you're familiar with Patanjali, the original Yoga Sutras.
Yes.
And his book, How to Know God.
Yes.
And
wonderful translation by Swami Prabhupada and Christopher Isherwood.
Yes, I have that.
Yeah, it's a great translation of that. Yes.
And it's just, every page. I've never read a book that I have. When I read it, I read a page or two, and I set it down, and I can't wait to get back to it. But I don't want to read it because I'm afraid it's going to end. Okay, that's how I feel about that book.
Right. Because
there's so much masterful kinds of experiences and aphorisms in there that we can apply, and really, really reach these miraculous levels. Anyway, one of the passages that I used from Patanjali was about this concept called inspiration, which is really what we're talking about here, because the word inspiration, of course, comes from in spirit. And the word information comes from inform. So this is the age of information, and there's no shortage of information on this planet. With a computer chip that can put the name and address of everybody in the United States on it, and it's the size of your thumbnail. We've got plenty of information.
Yes.
But what we have is a spiritual deficit, a deficit of spirit. So Patanjali talked about becoming inspired as a source of, and this is what he said. He said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. And then he had this alarming thing to say. I laminated this and carried it with me. He said, dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. And all you have to do is become inspired, that is, move into the world of spirit. And once we do that, once we leave the form, once we leave the ego, once we leave the idea that I am what I have and what I do and my reputation, what others think of me, and begin to see ourselves as the beloved, as connected to rather than separate from God, and allow that higher spiritual awareness to flow into our lives. I think that's what we mean when we say surrender, when we say let go. I know when I'm writing, if I let go, my writing is blissful and easy. When I struggle with it and I try to think about the right word and so on, I get stuck. Same in an interview, or the same in when I'm speaking on stage, or whatever. When I let go, it's the old aphorism: when the student is ready, the teachers appear.
These are principles that I don't think have to be that complicated. Principles that are characteristic of those who take the road less traveled, who are on the uncrowded mile. And here they are. If you can live them and practice them and work on them or help others to do so, perhaps we can collectively begin to counterbalance some of the negativity of those who can't make the distinction between falsehood and truth. Have a mind that is open to everything, attached nowhere. Go through life with an idea that anything is possible. Don't die with your music still in you. Listen to the voices you hear, regardless of what others may say. Remember, you can never give away what you don't have, so if you're looking for love, Don't look in all the wrong places. Look inside, give it away, and you'll attract it into your life. Embrace silence. Know that God's one and only voice is silent, and all of your creativity and all that you are destined to be able to do here when you showed up with this heroic mission is in the void. It's in the silence, and it will come out of that silence. Give up your personal history. Don't be attached to all that has happened in the past. It's just a wake. It's just a trail that is left behind. And the wake can never drive the boat. Remind yourself always that whatever problems you have, you can't solve them with the same mind that created it. Rewrite your agreement with reality. Make anything up your possibility. Rid yourself of all of those resentments that you justify. There are no justifiable resentments. They will all destroy you. Treat yourself as if you already were what you would really like to become. Act it out. See yourself as having abundance. See yourself as being healthy. See yourself as being happy. See yourself playing that trumpet, and you won't be able to do anything else. Treasure your divinity. God doesn't make any junk. And finally, remind yourself that to be wise is to avoid all thoughts which weaken you. And every thought you have does one or the other, will either weaken or strengthen you. I think of those who don't recognize this great power, this force that is in everything and everyone, that opens the flowers and allows the butterflies to flap their wings, and who thinks it's all some great big accident. I love this story of the Buddha. And the Buddha is traveling, and everywhere he travels, he encounters criticism and hate and disrespect from all of these people who have done nothing but choose to see if they can bring him down. And always he responds with peace. Always he responds with love. And after 3 or 4 days of seeing these people continuously harassing him and ridiculing him and finding fault with him and being ugly and so on, his devotees say, how can you do that? After 3 days of nothing but receiving that kind of energy, you still always have love. And the Buddha answered this question with a question. He said, if someone offers you a gift and you do not accept that gift, to whom does the gift belong? And what he's saying is, if someone offers you a gift of their negativity, of their lower energy, of their criticism, of their hatred or whatever, and you simply don't accept it, who owns it? And if they own it and it's theirs, why would you allow yourself to be upset, depressed, stressed, hurt by something that is owned elsewhere? That's all you have to remind yourself of. And you'd be surprised. You know, it's a good thing to work on. It's a good thing to practice, especially if you have kids, because, boy, they give you so many opportunities to do this, where you can work at seeing if you can change that energy around, if you can make it go from low to high. Just see if you can raise it just ever so slightly. All of you instinctively know how to do it, because you're born with that quality. It's just that we've lost it when we took on the ego. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
So if we begin to shift our statements, the statements first of all that we say to ourselves, and then the statements that we say, because and so what I want everybody who's listening today to do is to take a look at all of the things in your life that you don't like, that aren't working the way you would like them to work, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's financial, whether it's with your health, whether with your job, with your friendships, or whatever it might be. And instead of saying, and when you ask yourself, now, how did it come to be this way? Kind of go back and go all the way back as far as you can go to even being a young boy or a young girl. And how many times have you heard or said the words that were predictive of this showing up in your life? and then get to a place where you start to change that around, and you have a different, not only a different set of expectations, but a different way of making decrees, so that you decree that things are going to work out, that your prosperity is on its way, that your relationship is going to improve, that your health is something that you have control over. I'll give you an example of this, and then we'll open up to the phones. My daughter Serena is here, who's written a book called Don't Die With Your Music Still In You. It's a book that I give out on the show to people who call in, my experience growing up with spiritual parents. And she has a new little baby. Her baby's name is Sailor, and Sailor is 3 months old. Now, Sailor has something called acid reflux, that so that her stomach, so when she's nursing or when she gets her bottle or whatever it is, she starts throwing up a lot. Now, my daughter Serena has had this her entire lifetime, from the time that she was a little girl, and her mother, my wife, also had that when she was a young girl. It's this thing called acid reflux, okay? And they have little prescriptions for it, Prilosec and things like that people take. It's sort of predictive of what Serena has experienced for herself in her whole life. So I said to her yesterday, I said, honey, do you realize that that little baby who came out of you shares your DNA and shares your blood, and is as, just because the cord has been cut, but is just as connected to you, spiritually and metaphysically and mentally, is just as connected to you as if she were inside of your womb, and that you had this experience yourself. And rather than already setting up this decree that Sailor's going to have this, is just something she's going to have to struggle with. My mother had it. She has, I had it, and now she's going to have it. I said, you have the capacity to communicate with her and begin to program into her subconscious mind from the time that she, and every time you look at her and see her, she can, when you look at her, she looks at you different than anybody else, because you're her mother, and she looks into your eyes and all that. And instead of telling her that you have acid reflux and I'm really sorry, I'm going to give you more milk than you need and you're going to have this for a lifetime, I said, you have the power to heal this. To put your hand on her stomach and on her throat, and when she's taking this, instead of convincing yourself that this child is going to have this for a lifetime, I want you to begin to just say to yourself, I can heal this for you, honey, and talk to her like this. And I put my hand on her stomach and I said, you're such a sweet baby, and you don't have to have this throwing up stuff, and you don't have anything called acid reflux. You're perfectly healthy. You're a divine creation. You are perfect. Mommy's going to be here for you and show you exactly how to deal with this, and start programming her subconscious mind right now, so that when words do begin to develop within her, and she speaks first in words and then in sentences, what you're going to say is that you don't have this. This is just a minor little obstacle, and it's not anything that's going to dominate your life. And and read your sister's book, Goodbye Bumps, because she was able to do the very same thing by shifting her consciousness around. So we get programmed from the time that we're little, about what we can do and what we can't do, how fast we can run, how much we can lift, how athletic that we are, how good we are at mathematics, how, whether or not we're coordinated, whether we can dance, whether we can do a headstand, whether we get, it's just almost every few minutes of our life, there are these decrees coming out of us, and you don't want to have any decree coming out of you that isn't predictive of what you would like to attract and create for yourself, versus a decree that says, it's going to be difficult, I can't make it happen, my luck is never going to work out, I've been sick, this runs in our family, my mother had it, my grandmother had it, and on and on and on and on it goes.